Sentiment is seemingly very, very quiet despite Bitcoin in a pretty important week here, as we are going to be going over in this video some important numbers, some very important numbers, especially for the Bitcoin BULAs to be met before the end of this next weekly closure and also the end of the monthly as well, of course. And then also some very important numbers that you do not want to see if you are a Bitcoin BULA right here, which would essentially invalidate the current strong position that the BULAs do hold. So without further ado, I actually want to make one little quick announcement. If you are considering any one of the programs or services that we do offer here on the Teachable School, just wait about 4 to 5 days, because on the first day of September, we're going to be having a nice big sale, so you can get yourself, you can save yourself a few bucks there. All right, sweet. Let's start off with actually the most important and new thing that is going on in the charts, and we can see it right here from the weekly view on the HPDR on spot price action. And what do you know? Bitcoin did close above the median, this sort of line that my cursor is tracing right now, for the first time since essentially Bitcoin ended this current run to the upside back in March/April. Bitcoin did close above the median right here, pretty healthily as well. Now you will notice that Bitcoin is opening this week actually below the median, so that does have a major implication for the current trajectory, meaning that we would expect that if Bitcoin is going to be bullish, we would expect Bitcoin to actually close this next weekly above that median. Whereas that median, it is 65,300. So that means that before the end of Sunday, this next coming Sunday, that is, we expect Bitcoin to actually be back above there, assuming that the BULAs are still in control. If Bitcoin is below, a little bit of a warning signal, obviously. And of course, when we go down to the daily time frame right here, we can see a very obvious area of failure, essentially, meaning that if Bitcoin does pop back down and close below this red line right here, on a daily closing basis, that's going to be a big warning signal, big warning signal. And that essentially is basically at about 62,500. So do keep that in mind. Now, here's the thing. I actually do expect Bitcoin will probably test somewhere down around here, 62,750, perhaps is going to be the, that nice number for a nice wick to the downside, perhaps even today. But we just want, if you are bullish, you just don't want to see a closure below that number. That's where things start to get, a little bit squirrely, I suppose, or not necessarily squirrely. I mean, it's just a fucking failure. And, at that point, downside becomes more likely, obviously, with another move back down somewhere around very low $60,000 before potentially something else occurs. Now, I do want to outline the price probabilities for Monday specifically. We actually have seen since 2024 began, Monday be more weighted towards positive closures, which with almost 65% of all Mondays closing positively, actually, meaning that it is actually, it is actually the most likely day to close positively. Saturday kind of as well, but Saturday has basically no returns on both sides. Monday, however, does have decent returns, both on the positive and negative side. On the average for the positive gaining Mondays, on average, it has returned 3.33% actually from open to close. And for the losing Mondays, which there have been a little over 35.25%, has lost an average of about 2.41%. So I do actually want to outline the downside of this first, because it does correlate quite well with what we just spoke about. Shaving off about 240 off of current price action would put Bitcoin where? 62,750 actually. So, does Bitcoin open up this week on a bit of a pullback, retest that region, and then perhaps try another continuation move to the upside? I do think that's a little bit more likely here. And of course, if we do go over to the positive gaining side, which I do think is less likely today, but if Bitcoin were to add about 3.33 to the current open, that would actually put Bitcoin back above 66,350. So that would be rather significant right there as well, I would argue. Anyways, I realize that there is too much sounds going on in the background. I'm going to delete that. Let me just get my notes back up over here. All right, beautiful. We got that. Main message for me for the BULAs below about 62,750. That is where problems start to occur for the current structure. Anyways, yes, okay, we got that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's go over some stochastic momentum pivots. We can see as well for this new weekly, the weekly stochastic oscillator is actually positioned to the downside on the open. Now, of course, it only matters where this one closes, which will not happen until Sunday. But as of right now, the pivot is 67,400, meaning that Bitcoin would need to close above 67,400 in order for this to maintain positive curvature. So, what is that essentially saying? It's essentially saying that probably won't even see above that number by the end of this week if things are going to continue. It wouldn't be a death sentence, but it would be a little bit of a concerning factor if Bitcoin failed to actually get back above that number. Of course, 65,200, as we went over earlier, is the more important number. So if it were to close above there, but below 67,400, be a bit more of a question mark. Still kind of favoring the Bulas. But if things could actually just close above this pivot as well, that would be great for the Bulas, of course, as well. Anyways, moving on from there, I should go over the 5-day. The 5-day is closing not tonight, but tomorrow night. And this one actually will have a chance to turn back onto the upside, assuming that Bitcoin closes tomorrow night above 60,800. So as of right now, it's about $3,000 above that pivot. So seemingly good, but it does look like things will likely have a downside test between now and the end of Tuesday. So we'll see where things kind of end up. Again, the big number that would be a tremendous warning signal is if Bitcoin starts to close dailies below 62,750, let's call it, or 62,500 if you just want to round it off right there. All right, cool. So we got that. Is there anything else? Do we want to look at CME? I mean, it's basically the same shit right here. CME, closes tomorrow night as well. 63,750 is actually the pivot for the 5-day, and the weekly is the same as spot price action. All right, cool. All right, just making sure. Yes, okay. All right. One other thing I want to be going over as well is that likely leading towards this week opening up on a bit of a downside test is right here on the weekly time frame. If I get rid of all my major moving averages except for this red 5 exponential moving average, you can see that Bitcoin, yes, one, did close above it last week. So again, favor goes to the Bulas for that as well. And then two, here's the thing. Whenever you have a trending move or basically any move above this major moving average or below for that matter as well, you almost always get a reconnect with that major moving average before continuation. And sometimes, every once in a while you don't, it did happen over here once and twice actually, but generally you're always going to see at least a wicks down to that number. So that again, officially is at about $62,500. So if Bitcoin were to come back down around there, reconnect and then bounce leading later into the week towards, a rally back above, let's say 65, that would look that would be kind of like the bullish view for right now. But as it stands, as we went over yesterday and a couple times over the weekend, it does seem like Bitcoin has this highly anticipated higher low here on the weekly. So if you are going to get a rejection and some sort of a fake out, you would be expecting Bitcoin obviously not to continue this week, but to really get, rejected below about 65 for right now. It's a long week left to go, so not really too much to say about it other than that. What else do I want to get into? Yes. Okay. So last couple things here. I did want to point out the 5-day 5 exponential moving average strategy fired off again. This was Sunday the 18th, and it is still active, still in that trade, which started about 60,400. We'll see where this one closes tomorrow, but assuming that it closes above 61,380, then it will maintain that open trade, again, with these statistics over here in mind. This is a full back test of the full history of this particular setup. Just a very simple setup on the 5-day time frame. Closing above that red 5 exponential moving average does initiate an entry, and then closing below initiates the exit. And again, using the service over here to calculate these probabilities and whatnot. What I'm interested in, however, is not the full history of this, because admittedly, the early years of Bitcoin, 2010, 2011, 2012 especially, just saw tremendous returns in both directions. So I think omitting those and only testing from 2015 is probably a more accurate simulation. Even then, the average winning trade has returned over 36%. The average losing trade losing just under 5.75%. So, this is a favorable setup long term. On top of that, as you can see in the equity curve here, we actually could apply this same setup basically blindly to the weekly time frame as well. I'll actually show you what it looks like without that same date range, just looking at the full history of Bitcoin. This one also firing off as well here. And this one actually has a slightly higher probability of being a winning trade at about 50, or not about, but 50% of all of these setups being profitable. And again, like profit factor of over 15 is like fucking insane. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to only measure from 2015 to current date. Percent profitable remains the same at 50%. Profit factor goes down significantly, obviously, which is probably more accurate here too. And we can see the average winning trade for this one, about 38.80. So very, very similar to the 5-day, but good to see both the 5-day and the weekly firing off almost simultaneously there, alongside the 12-hour and the daily, both of which we spoke about early last week. And those are still very much active and available as well, albeit with different numbers. So, we do expect all these things to kind of be moving in the same direction if there is going to be a trending move. And well, what does that essentially imply? It essentially implies that you'd be expecting Bitcoin to continue to maintain closures above the 5 exponential on these time frames, thus keeping these trades open. And, that could really be the next big momentous move, probably being catalyzed later this week, if I had to guess. I won't do, or I guess I'll do like a little bit of a measurement here. Why not? Just to put numbers on it, 30% to the upside puts Bitcoin back around $80,000, which is actually a rather interesting number, just because right here on the weekly HPDR, this is not going to happen this week, or I should say extremely unlikely to happen this week, but likely a setup for the weeks to come. If Bitcoin does close back above the median, the natural area of interest, especially off of 2 closures back above there, is going to be the top side of the 38.2 level in the weekly HPDR, which that is almost $80,000 already. So that's kind of what I would be looking for to denote continuation towards, in this case, new highs. And things can obviously evolve and progress, much further than that as well. But one thing before the next, and again, just be aware that this week is likely to open up on a pullback. Just don't want to see this area violated right here. Otherwise, it's a violation, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It would obviously invalidate all of the other bullish setups that we've been looking at. All right, sweet. We're at the end of this video now. It's time for me to give you a nice positive message. This is, I'm just going to let this lady speak for herself, because she has something to share. She has something to get off her chest. So let's just let's just hear her out.
Hi guys, I'm Tara, and I killed my stepdad in self-defense.
Hey, what? You can't just end the video there, lady. I want some details. And why are you sharing this on TikTok? Why? I want to know. Is this like AA meetings on fucking TikTok? Well, at least it's being used for something positive, I guess. I don't know. But we'll end on that note. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love. And see you hopefully next time.